We could do this. Or this. We could try this. Maybe this? What about this? My name's Adam Manis, and today we're talking all about dominant chords. Which dominant chord should we use on this beautiful passage from All the Things You Are? There are a lot of choices when it comes to dominant seventh chords, right? 5 chords leading to our tonic. It's often up to us chordal instruments to add a lot of color and flavor to the dominant chords in a tune. But there are some guidelines we can use to help us make this decision and hopefully help us make an artful and tasteful and beautiful decision. In this case, there are a couple of those that I think are better than others. So here's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to go through 5 different kinds of dominant chords. We'll be going through dominant 7 chords, just regular meat and potatoes, 5/7 chords. Dominant 9 chords, adding a little bit of color there. Flat 9 chords, ratcheting up the amount of tension, right? Altered chords, which are very, very tense, and there might be even a question of if we should use it in this situation. And then finally, a very special dominant chord to end that I think is just... it's my fave. So this lesson does have a PDF. You can download that in the description. Let's get to it. Before we get to all the different dominant 7 chords that we can use on this melody, let's look at the melody itself. We're dealing with the last 4 bars of the tune. So literally just the ending, closing cadence. All the things you are mine. It's just a 2-5-1 in A flat. You've got a B flat minor 7. Beautiful melody here, by the way. E flat 7. Notice what the melody is here compared to E flat. That could be a clue for something. And then we end there. So really a lot to work with here, actually. A beautiful flowing melody there over the 2 chord. And then 2 long half notes there on the 5 chord, resolving to the melody on the tonic and the root on the tonic. So all good information that can help us make decisions about which dominant 7th chord we want to use. Let's check out our first option. Okay, so the very basic Bob version of the dominant 7th chord is just a plain old 1-3-5-7 dominant 7, and it sounds like this. It sounds really, really good. I mean, that sounds great, actually. So what's going on here? So just I'll walk you through here. I'm going to do the same thing on the 2 chord every time. Just a little 6 diminished. That's a D flat major 6 diminished scale, by the way. We've got lots of videos on the 6 diminished scale if you want to check those out. But that's what's going on there. To an E flat 7 sus. Now, because we have these 2 long half notes over the 5 chord, why not suss it out here? It's a perfect opportunity. We've got the melody is here, this F. And so I'm going to do this beautiful E flat 7 sus voicing. E flat, A flat, D flat, F, A flat, C. So it's really a sus 13, that melody note on top. I'm going to do this every time because it just sounds so good. What you get with the sus chords and then resolve to a regular dominant, quote unquote, regular dominant chord is this movement. Right? It goes from the sus to the dominant and then to the tonic. So this little tenor line is moving like this. So let's listen to it again. Now listen for our really basic E flat 7 chord. There's nothing wrong with that. I know that probably seems very simple or maybe even a little vanilla to some of your ears, but it's kind of one of those things like when you're first learning the music and you're learning how to play these dominant 7th chords, they're easy, right? They're one of the first things we learn, and we want to kind of get away from, the square, that I don't like that or whatever. I can do things weirder or hipper or more interesting. And then the more experience you get, the more you just really appreciate that very simple structure of the 1-3-5-7. I think it sounds great. You got to play it with confidence. You got to own it. You really got to make it sound like you're meaning to play something that's simple and basic. But when you do, it's so good. It sounds good every single time. Another cool thing about just the normal regular dominant 7th chord is because it's literally just 1, 3, 5, 7, it works with anything. It works going to this major chord, it works going to a minor chord, it works going to another dominant chord, it works going to a diminished chord, wherever you're going, just this plain dominant 7th chord works great. So, don't sleep on it. It's very, very handy. All right, let's go to our second option, a little more spice on this one. Okay, this second kind of dominant chord that we're going to use is a dominant 9. Very similar to the dominant 7 where you would have 1, 3, 5, 7. This we have those and we just add the 9 here. This is a beautiful sound. It kind of reminds me of a lot of Debussy, a lot of Ravel, that thing. Sort of the main sonority here is like a B flat minor triad almost, that G, and so you maybe think B flat minor 6. That's a very Barry Harris-ish thing to think about this, but I love this B flat minor over E flat sound here. So the voicing I have, actually, you might notice, it's kind of a peculiar voicing I have on that E flat 9. I've got the same sus stuff going on. We've got this E flat 9 here, and I'm putting that whole B flat minor 6 sound in the middle. I've got the root, I've got the melody, and in the middle there, I've got F, G, B flat, and D flat. That B flat minor 6 as a little block chord between the root and the melody. Sounds really good. Let's hear how it sounds in context. I think it sounds pretty great, actually. I would use that. Maybe a little movement there, a little 6 diminished movement. But I really enjoy that. You could do drop 2 here, because the melody is the 3rd. You could do a drop 2 voicing. You could put the 9 clustered up here, although the melody might get lost. I'm going to try to bring out the melody on this M Audio keyboard, but it might not work. Yeah, it's hard. If I was on a real piano, it would be a little bit easier. So I like the voicing I have here. I like this little block chord couched in. Let's hear it again. Whew. Isn't that fantastic? Just that one little thing, just adding the 9. It adds so much flavor to our dominant 9 chords. So mostly you're going to use these 9 chords, these natural 9 chords, going to a major chord or maybe another dominant chord. I think that's probably their best use. One other note here on the major chord that I'm using. I just want to point out this voicing real quick because I just love it so much. It's, again, something that's very, very simple, almost square, but I love this sound here. What I have is root, melody, they're the same note, right? They're the tonic here. And in the middle, I'm putting an A flat 6 chord and a little drop 2, right? It's a drop 2 A flat 6 split between the hands. To me, this is a very guitarish sounding chord. It's so powerful. It works really well on the tonic as the tonic. Before we get to our next dominant 7th chord, if this is your jam, you gotta hit the like button, right? Let us know that you dig it. And if you haven't already, for goodness sakes, subscribe to the channel. We do this stuff all the time. We're having a good time nerding out over here. You can put that bell on if you want. Can you see the bell? Let's get some background on the bell. There it is. Background on the bell. Put the bell on so that you can get some notifications when we go live anytime with this nerdy piano stuff. Okay, next up is the flat 9. The 2 chord, it stays the same with that little contrary motion, 6 diminished melody. We're going to stay the same on the first half of the 5 chord, which is the sus chord, beautiful. But then we're going to add some crunch. That's an E flat 7, flat 9. I've got the 3rd, I've got the 7th, I've got the flat 9, and I've got the little 13 here added for that little crunch in the middle. It always sounds good to add a little half-step crunch in the middle of your voicings, in my opinion. Notice I've got the melody doubled in octaves. That doesn't bother me in this case because of that crunch. To me, it feels really strong, it feels really balanced. And then I'm going to go from here to our tonic. Got a new tonic voicing for you, little A flat 6 9. Notice that the melody is not the top note. This is great practice for bringing out the melody. The melody doesn't always have to be on top in your piano voicings. It can be in the middle of your chord. You just have to have a good enough touch for that to work. Let's try it again in time here. How great is that? I love this one. I think this one is the best so far to voice this melody, right? This G to A flat here in the key of A flat. This is something you hear all the time. The flat 9 sound works really well when the melody is the third of your dominant chord because it's supporting here. And you get this contrary motion that can occur when you go down to the fifth of the time, right? So it leads that alto, that tenor line, it leads it somewhere pretty important. It gives it a bit of gravity. Let's hear it one more time. It sounds so good. Woo, crunchy. I love it so much. So the flat 9 sound could be based off of the half-whole diminished scale, but I like to think about these chords, these sort of diminished sounding chords, based off of the 6 diminished. What 6 diminished? The A flat 6 diminished. Because the A flat 6 diminished contains both the tonic and the dominant. That scale of chords contains A flat 6 and E flat 7 flat 9. You can use the A flat 6 diminished scale of chords to voice chords, of course on the 1, right, on the A flat major 6, but also on the E flat 7 flat 9. That same scale works. You just start it on, quote unquote, start it on the diminished part of it, right, which is always going to be this G diminished sound or this B flat diminished sound, D flat diminished sound, E flat diminished, or E natural diminished sound, excuse me. They're all the same, but it's really just an E flat 7 flat 9. We've done so many videos on the 6 diminished scale lately and the scale of chords. 6 diminished scale, it's all about the 6 diminished. So you likely already know what the 6 diminished scale is. Today we're going to be talking about Barry Harris's 6 diminished scale and how to use it. You can check those out wherever you get your Open Studio videos. Let's go on to our next dominant 7 chord. Okay, this is a very crunchy level. This is an altered chord. So what you would call an E flat 7 altered here. Now this is based off of the altered scale or perhaps the melodic minor scale from either a half step above. You could think about the melodic minor. Barry Harris thinks about this as the minor 6 diminished scale from a half step above. So if we're on E flat 7, you can think about an E minor 6 shape. And you can think about an E minor 6 diminished scale of chords as well, to voice and borrow and all of that stuff. And I might do a video coming up on borrowing using the major 6 diminished and the minor, what we call the tritones minor 6 diminished, and those crazy things you can use, which is what we're going to do here. But you don't need to know all of that. You just need to know that this altered chord, this dominant 7 altered chord, is an option. Is it the best option? I don't know. Let's hear what we have here. Not bad so far. Not bad. It's not my favorite, I'll be honest. So I'll tell you why it's not my favorite. So this is an E flat 7 altered here, and the voicing I chose, I think it's the most balanced version I can get with where I was. I tried a host of different options, and I tried different options because this to me does not do the altered chord justice, the dominant 7 altered chord justice. This has the third, the flat 13, which is all good. It's an E minor 6 shape. The 7th, right, that E flat, and the flat 9. But the melody note being the third is the problem. You wouldn't really use a lot of altered 7 chords when the melody is the third. Why? Because the altered chord, this altered 7 chord, really shines when the melody is there, even on the root of the 7th. So like if the melody did this, for instance, went to E flat, then this altered chord where you got the sharp 9, the flat 13, you could add the A, a lot of crunch to it, all of that stuff I think would be a much better option melodically. Really, you want that E melodic minor, E minor 6 diminished sound in the melody itself. So having it on that major third of the E flat, this is not the best option, I think, for us in this case. But it is good to know. I did a video a couple weeks ago on the B section of On Green Dolphin Street that used the altered sound perfectly. So here was the drop 2 section from that On Green Dolphin Street video, and you can see here at the on the dominant chord, the B flat 7. Here we're going to use the B minor 6 diminished, and that should be a D natural there. I got called out a lot in the comments. When it says B minor, I don't even think about it. You know what I mean? When I see the chord. Anyway, but this is a B minor 6 diminished over this B flat. And the melody, of course, has that flat 9, sharp 9 in the melody. So it's just perfect. This is a great example of how you can use the minor 6 diminished from a half step up. It works perfectly in that situation. Much better, I think, than in our All the Things You Are situation. Okay, last one. And I think the winner chicken dinner, because this one sounds so good. This is using the tonics diminished, or diminished tonic, whatever you want to call it, over our E flat. What the heck does that mean? It means we're going to use an A flat diminished over E flat. This is a great trick, especially when the melody note is one of 2 melody notes. If the melody note is the 7th of the key you're in, so what we have here, right? That 3rd of the 5th, the G going to A flat. This is so common in Great American Songbook standards, well, in a lot of songs actually, to go from there to there, or if the melody note is the 9 of the tonic. Either way, where you're surrounding. In those cases, using the diminished chord of the tonic over the 5. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. This is something you might hear Bill Evans play at the end of Waltz for Debbie, for instance. You know what I mean? So beautiful. Let's hear it one more time. I can't help but lean back. Terribly corny, sorry. Let's try it again. Whew. I could do that all day. So this tonic diminished, the diminished tonic, wherever you're going, you can use the diminished. Why does this work? Well, it works with the same principles that flat 9, the dominant 7 flat 9. Where you have this half-step gravity, right? These notes that are resolving. In the case of the E flat 7 flat 9, you got your 7 and your flat 9 resolving down a half step. In the case of the tonics diminished, right? You've got this C flat or B natural and the D natural resolving up a half step. And then you put that all over the 5 and the bass. It's like, it shouldn't work, but it really, really does work. It provides exactly the kind of tension, that half-step gravity with the dominant 7 flat 9, we're heading down. With this diminished of the tonic, we're heading up, like everything is moving up a half step. Isn't that beautiful? Well, that's it for me, folks. Those are some great options over those last 4 bars of All the Things You Are. And remember, just keep those questions in mind. What is the melody? If it's not the written melody, what is the melody that's being improvised? So that can help inform, first of all, what kind of dominant chord you're playing. And then where are we going? Is it major? Is it minor? Is it dominant? Is it diminished? There's no right or wrong answer, and you could pretty much make anything work if you know what you're doing. But when you're experimenting at your instrument, just think like, oh, does this natural 9 dominant work great going to a minor 7 chord? I don't know. Does something else work better? Maybe a flat 13. There's the possibilities are endless, but it takes some kind of thoughtfulness when it goes through that. And see if you can pay attention to the music that you love. What kind of dominant chords are the pianists that you love using in certain situations? All of that, as we listen to our heroes, those are the things that we can take from it that are very, very important for our own playing. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back with more in a little bit. Until then, happy practicing.